Happy New Year, everyone. Happy 2026. New beginning, so to speak. Although, technically, from an astrological point of view, I should actually say Happy New Year in March when Aries season begins. But as with so many of our festivities that so many people sort of like practice, celebrate them actually. It does hold a charge in a way. So, in a sense, it is New Year, though the astrological New Year starts in March. When we do actually look at a time period before Christianity arrived in the Germanic, Norse-speaking world, it was actually the time after Yule, where the 12 days after Yule, which it's been hinted towards that this was every year's Ragnarok. So, in a sense, that after those 12 days, that we did actually have a new year upon us. So, this tradition, as new as it is, might actually go much further back. That being said, we're looking at a year full of challenges, as I hinted towards in my previous video about just a short astrological overview over 2026, which in that sense, I looked purely into the mundane, so sort of like more the political side to it, and grand themes around the world. On a personal level, what we definitely can see here is that we are looking towards a rebirth of sorts. And now to the title of this video is that Boomercraft is dead. And what do I actually mean with Boomercraft? Well, I was struggling with the idea of actually perhaps calling it NPC craft, because I'm not so much into this thing to blame a certain generation for all the ills of the world. And there's this thing that the elites, people who like to call themselves that, but they are anything but elite. They like to pit us against each other. So that's where we have this divide between male and female in society, left and right, and even the generations. So sort of like the Zoomers against the Boomers, and somewhere in the middle, the Xers and Millennials are caught up. And in a sense, it's somehow true, some of these traits of the generations, but on an individual level, you could hardly find one person that fits all of these traits. So, yeah, what I'm actually attacking here is the NPC, because these are found throughout the generations, but it seems to sort of have a boomer culture about it. When we think about the boomers, what do we actually see? We see those guys that sort of like grew up in the summer of love and all this hippie, Woodstocky thing, and it had its good sides. So we were breaking away from a very rigid societal structures, and we were introducing new things into our lives, new ways of thinking, and they were really thinking outside of the box, so to speak, and which led us to very great places. I mean, I wouldn't imagine where paganism would be without perhaps this kind of mode of thinking. So, I mean, it went overboard with lots of like acid trips and all that kind of very trippy stuff, where they tried to go for Hindu mythology, but in a very weird kind of way. So it did have its good sides, but there was an optimism about this generation in particular, that they tried to carry on into an ever evolving and ever changing world, where this optimism just doesn't stand its ground. And now we're faced with the decisions of those boomers and their terrible choices, actually. But the thing is, there's a feeling in the air that their witchcraft, their boomercraft, has been defeated. And I actually have the feeling it's been defeated last year in 2025. It's like a change in the air somehow. I felt profound darkness throughout the years 2018 to 2025. Perhaps even with some personal issues, but still tied to the general culture, so to speak. And I think it's, as the saying is, the darkest hour is just before dawn. And that rings very true. And ever since the end of last year, I felt somehow lighter in that sense, as if the dark magic of the boomers, of the NPC, just isn't effective anymore. And I mean, this goes way, way back, actually. If we look at, I'm pointing out that, pointing towards boomers, but actually, to give it a little bit more form, this entire boomerism, I think, started with the advent of Abrahamic faiths. So I've been doing a little bit of a deep dive lately about the origins of the Abrahamic faiths, where they come from, and what I found is still in the theoretical, and perhaps will stay in the theoretical forever, especially because the opposing voices are just too firmly attached to the official narrative, so to speak. But I do think it holds. It sounds very true. I've been looking into this guy called Gmerkin, forgot the first name, where he said that the Old Testament must have been written somewhere around 273 BC. Very specific year for being approximate, but that's what he pinpointed towards. It seems that there might have been texts, fragments perhaps, or just different manuscripts for the people of Canaan, and they sort of had like mythologies. It's maybe separate, so to speak, separate stories, and they compiled them into one. But it seemed they didn't have much own material, to be honest. We see that there's a northern and a southern. There's sort of like the Midianite and the Samaritan people coming together and posing as one people, at behest of the Greeks in Alexandria. They seem to have wanted to compile an authoritative text for every single text there is out there, so to speak. So they were definitely the rulers of Canaan at that time, and they said, well, you guys over there with your temple in Jerusalem, you say you have a great text. Well, then come to Alexandria, come to the Great Library, and compile this text. And so the story goes that these guys went there and created the Septuagint. it is strongly suggested that the first Torah wasn't actually written in Hebrew or Aramaic, but it was actually written in Greek, as was the New Testament. So, and we can definitely see a lot of plagiarism here. So, yeah, we see a lot of texts hinting towards a Babylonian origin or connection to Egypt, a mythical figure of Moses who is actually previous to the 270s BC was several people who achieved great stories, sort of like a Hercules of the Greek world, but um, there was definitely a Moses who himself seemed to have been Greek or Egyptian, but actually with no connection to the land of Canaan whatsoever. And then they took this mythical figure and made him his own. Yeah, it took concepts of Zoroastrianism, took the magic of Egypt and the philosophies of Greece, meshed it all into one book, and within a few years, the Old Testament has been written. And sort of why I'm getting to this is because if you compile such texts, if you want to compile such a text, you are essentially either compiling an actual text, like with the Eddas, where I believe that, despite some of the naysayers, that even though a Christian monk has written this, I believe that this guy perhaps was a pagan posing as a Christian monk. But that's a personal belief. It is also just theory, and nothing I can definitely say rings true. But with the Bible, the Old Testament, it is very clear that this is plagiarism. It is stolen. It is made up. And the result of it is a corruption. And we see that throughout the entirety of history with these Abrahamic religions. All they did was fight, kill, murder. And in those periods when they didn't do that, they tried to present themselves as these peaceful people trying to keep the demonic at bay. And whenever they gain power, all they commit is atrocities. That is sort of like a world we're living in now, because one of the Abrahamic faiths doesn't pose as a faith. It is communism, which has all the markers of the Abrahamic faith, and it does have its own theology. And people will be scratching their heads and saying, like, this is atheistic. Well, if one reads very carefully and closely, it is the same as with Christianity. It just demonizes all others or denies all others while empowering its own theology. If you want to sort of like have this confirmed, just read the Corpus Hermeticum from Hermes the Thrice Great next to Das Kapital, and you will see that Das Kapital is plagiarizing this much older Hermetic text. Well, and that's sort of like where this boomerism started. It is a corruption. It is trying to impose a non-natural view on the natural world, and it's reached its peak with woke. So woke is essentially everything that reality isn't. And well, lots of wokesters are actually not boomers; they're very young people, millennials and Gen Z. But spiritually, they're NPC boomers. So, in essence, for 2,000 years, we've been living under this spell. Some places only 1,000 years, some places 1,500 years, but since 2,000 years, roughly, we've been, even astrologically, being pulled towards this moment. In a way, we're being pulled towards 2026, 2032, but I think really the moment where everything is being released was actually the spring equinox in 25. I mean, we have a lot of hints towards the year 2025 from different cultures. One can calculate 2025 as sort of like an ending date, and in a way, it was. So, if we look at our quote unquote elites, I have the feeling that they have lost, but just don't know it yet. They have died, but no one has told them that they're dead. Sort of like the Sixth Sense with Bruce Willis, who, funny enough, well, not funny, but actually tragically, because I liked him as an actor very much, it seems that he is going to pass very soon. Yes, and now we're living in a world where we have to redefine ourselves. The power structures, the whole matrix, so to speak, which we're being held together by, is quickly dissolving. So, if we do come into a position of total financial collapse, which I think is even being pushed by the big players, this will be the point where we will have to redefine ourselves. And this is actually a great chance. This is a really great chance. And I hope we don't mess it up. I have the feeling we mess it up. So I'm not very optimistic on that, because human nature is just, unfortunately, very boomerish, very stupid. But at least for us in the tribes, we might have the chance of defining ourselves for the future. And it could very well be that it is similar to those pagans in the past who have been Christianized, and, well, them being Christianized, I mean, that was more like the boomers being Christianized, the NPCs, whereas the heathens had their heads chopped off, and just some very few surviving as monks, or just playing along and pretending to be monks and writing down their stories. I think this might, the next 200-300 years might usher in a new dark age where we disappear altogether, and then to re-emerge yet again, but this time in full force. And yes, this is what is described in Greek literature, this time period, as the cataclysm, kataklysmos. So, if we do take a chance collectively as humans, we can skip the part of the cataclysm and go straight into a better age. I don't necessarily believe this will be the golden age. I think this works similar to the seasons. So, if we would say summer is the golden age, after winter you don't get summer straight, you always get spring, so it gets a little bit warmer. So it's incremental, I believe, and that's what I've been believing for a long time. There's this thing that people believe, there's the Kali Yuga, and it will go on for 400,000 plus years. And I would there's a possibility, of course, and that we're just entering a like mini golden age within the dark age, because everything goes in cycles, definitely. But the science stands against it, because the 432,000 year cycle is a later invention, and the earlier Hindu texts actually point towards a 12,000 year cycle. 12,000 in total, so with the Golden Age and Silver and Bronze and Iron Age altogether in 12,000 years. And guess what 12,000 years ago was? It was the Younger Dryas periods. If there was an Atlantis, that was when it sunk. And they had their own cataclysmic event, which was a huge flood. So, yeah, and I mean, people are like, this will go on for another 400,000 years. And it's like, yeah, sure. How can it get any worse than this? The only thing that can get worse is when everyone rapes everyone and everyone kills everyone. That's the only thing that could make it worse. But that is not even in the descriptions of how bad it will get. The descriptions of the Iron Age are what we see now, essentially now. So just open your eyes and see that everyone is hinting towards this time right now, and not in 400 something thousand years, because we're even if we have like these 432,000 years sort of like compressed into a shorter time frame, we see that time is speeding up, and that things like AI is just growing exponentially. And just imagine this for a second. If thing like AI would evolve for another 400,000 effing years, do you think that humanity will even exist at this point? I mean, there's a high probability that if it does just grow as it is, that within 50 years we're gone. So how can this go on? So no, I do really think that the Iron Age has ended last year, and that the NPC Boomercraft is now just a corpse, nothing else. And it depends on how much its poison can seep into the newborn humanity. So, I mean, where did we see actually that Boomercraft is dying? Just look into your personal lives. I mean, I used to get very excited about new video games coming out, and I would be the one who was like pre-ordering it, and really excited when it came out. I was eagerly awaiting this day. Sometimes even new movies coming out for the cinema, the same. Um, yeah, and if something maybe was on the news, I would take its word for it, and well, not necessarily take its word for it, because I haven't been doing this for way over 20 years. But seeing events happening in the world and thinking they were very significant, and perhaps even they would get a reaction out of me, sort of like, well, look what these cunts are doing. But no, nowadays I couldn't give less of less of a fuck about it. So things are happening, like just recently with the president, that tyrant of Venezuela, and I'm like, yeah, great, who cares? What's for lunch? And in the past, it would have been very exciting news. Yeah. Yeah, that's in my personal life, that Boomercraft is just simply dying, and I see it with other people too. And it's not like with the other NPCs who never had an interest in such subjects. It is more like that's it is a different reality, and it's divorced from my reality. Um, I'm looking forward to a pagan revival, perhaps, so to speak. Um, Especially since we see like things with the unfortunate events around Charlie Kirk. And anyone who knows me knows that I don't have very good feelings towards Christianity, especially evangelical Christianity. I think it is one of the most despicable movements here in the West altogether. It takes in scoundrels and creates a fakeness, and something that really is off-putting. I really despise the fakeness of evangelical Christians. And the thing is, even though I live in a country where there are hardly any evangelical Christians, for some reason I know them all. Yeah, I have this. This has to do with my family putting me in contact with them, because I have family members who are evangelical Christians. And now the thing is, it is fake. And I mean, Thomas Sheridan once put this very good by hinting towards what are they called? Rod and Todd or something, of the Sons of Flanders in The Simpsons. And them asking if this is church happy or if this is real happy. Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, you see these people smiling and being grateful for things where, yeah, I mean, it's something. It's good to be grateful for things, even little things in life, definitely. But this is over the top and always in your face, and I can see behind the big smiles of some of these women that there's a huge bitch underneath. Um, yeah, it's all just so fake, and Christianity is fake. It's a fake religion. It's been made up, and despite some of the historicity points given to a Jesus figure, it still doesn't hold up. And if there was some kind of Jesus figure, he probably was more like a robber or sort of like military insurgent person more than anything else. And all the latest stories are just later stories and additions. And we know, for example, well, sort of know, all of this is just theory, obviously, because, as I said before, the proponents will fight this tooth and nail. And that even Paul didn't exist, that he's just a literary invention, a smart one, but a type of literary invention that has been used throughout this classical age quite frequently. So, yeah, people of the time would have understood that the whole Bible is just fake. So it also begs the question. Well, it doesn't beg a question. I mean, if the Torah was sort of like compiled and written in Alexandria by Greek-speaking Hebrews, and plagiarized like very heavily, then every other Abrahamic faith is fake too, and it's falling apart as we speak. So we've seen the TPUSA drawing in huge numbers of new Christians, and I have the feeling that within a year or so they'll all be gone. Either they'll go down the atheist route or might be soul searching a little bit and perhaps finding themselves here in the fold of heathenry. And I say the fold of heathenry as if it's the church, but no, that's not what it is. Paganism, heathenry is finding your own way, doing your own soul search. So, in a way, that's what I think we are going to see and expect for 2026. On a personal level, we will see the repaganization of our kin or the downfall of those who want to stick to the old boomer world. Yeah, so they want to crash the economy and they think they can then replace cash money with digital money. But I see, well, perhaps the people will just be bartering, because if they then implement their crazy laws that they just ban people from paying, well, they're probably going to ban a huge amount of people at once, because it's just too much for, because they're just too anti-nature, too anti-human. They will have to ban, by their own standards, actually more than 90% of all people. And if you just ban everyone, they're just going to find their own system. So fuck the old system, seriously. And everyone's bartering, and then no one's on the internet anymore. That would actually be a great thing. I mean, I'm delivering this to you through the internet, and in a way, I'm trying to build up a business through the internet. So if the internet is gone, it will definitely hurt me in that sense, or my plans, so to speak. But if the world would return to a place before the internet, that would be something I would embrace wholeheartedly, where connections were real and human emotion wasn't behind the keyboard. So, are we going to see a return to nature? Perhaps. We have a chance. We have a chance to let the corpse be a corpse and not try to revive it in any way. And yeah, that's more or less all I have to say about this. So, all your little heathens, non-heathens, and spiritually minded people, go on and live a mythical life. Live a life connected to your ancestors. Perform magic and dance to the song in your heart if you feel like it. And don't ever give up on this path. That is sort of like my second message to you, a short one. But in any case, if you would like to consult me, I do card readings. I want to do rune readings and other kind of readings in the future, but that's something I'm still working on, and I do know the basics, but I'm not confident enough to actually offer this. So what I do is tarot readings, but essentially I'm not doing classical tarot readings. What I do is intuitive readings. So if you put like, I don't know, the Seven of Swords on the table, the classical tarot reader has a defined way on how to read this card. I can pull it out in one reading and it has one meaning, and then the next reading has a completely different meaning. It's completely intuitive. I've been doing this for years with actually great success. So yeah, I offer card readings. I offer astrological readings, which is not in that sense intuitive. Well, there's a bit intuition always within it, but this definitely has meanings that are well defined. So I can read your birth chart. I can go in, look for astrolocality. So if there's a place you might move to or just want to take a vacation to, look at birth chart, progress charts, mundane charts, if you're so interested in that. And obviously, what is closest to my heart is that I perform magic. I perform magic when your luck runs out. If you've been looking hard for romantic partnership, I can help you there. If you want revenge, I can even help you there. So anything that crosses your mind can be done magically. Not everything, but well, there's the sky is the limit, as they say. And anyway, thank you for listening to my ramblings, and perhaps we'll see us in each other in the next video.